Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I'm so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out. Book a clarity call and let's get chatting. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Release Your Blocks. Today, I have a very special guest, a speaker who is Chrissie Shirley, who is a certified Access Consciousness facilitator here in New Zealand. Thank you for joining us today, Chrissie.
Oh, awesome, Victoria. Thank you very much.
Now, Chrissie is, we were just talking about podcasts, and I've interviewed her, oh my goodness, probably a couple of times now, maybe on my YouTube, in my Facebook groups. And what I love so much about you, Chrissie, is the minute I became an Access Consciousness facilitator, a bars facilitator, you reached out straight away and said, hey, how can I contribute to you? And to be completely honest with you, like, you may not even remember that because you are so generous to a lot of people. But the funny thing about it was I was all like, what do these people want from me? Why are they reaching out? Do they want something? Because I had never in my life experienced such generosity with a, hello, thank you for being a contribution to the world. How can I contribute to you? I was like, what is this paradigm that I just stepped into? And that kind of opened me up. Now, I do a lot more than just Access Consciousness, of course. Access Consciousness is very broad, but I know you've had a big life so far, like in this reality. You've had a big life, and we've talked about that in previous interviews. But today we're going to talk about conscious money. But before we go into that, because I know money is one of your favorite topics in the world.
Yes.
Before we go into that, I want to hear a little bit about who you are and what has got you to this point, Chrissie.
Yeah, sure. Oh, so much. Victoria, the reason probably money is one of my favorite topics with Access is because when I came to Access, I was a really sad lady and I owned nothing. Like, I was really, really struggling. I was struggling financially and in all other ways. And when I started to put the tools of the Access tools into practice, my life got better and better financially, as well as in happiness ways, emotionally as well. And I bought my first house that first year that I started doing Access Consciousness, and I had been struggling prior to that. And there's lots of different things I could say about that, but one of them is that I'd left my ex-husband with nothing. Like, literally, he gave me nothing. I always trusted him and thought that, if we ever separated, that he would be, go halves and everything. But no, that didn't work out that way. And one of the things I discovered when I started doing Access is that if you don't choose to be rich and wealthy, you ain't going to be rich and wealthy. And that's pretty much where my struggle came from. And I discovered that, because I was doing lots of different classes, and I was pretty much gobsmacked when I realized that what I had actually chosen was to never be poor. Well, that doesn't choose to be, that's nothing, really. That's a nothing choice. And when I just realized that I had decided that, then I revoked that decision and I made a new choice. Because in Access, we talk about choices rather than decisions, because decisions can lock you up. Mm-hmm. They can create real big blocks, actually. And so that was my first choice way back, was to be rich. And I probably didn't even ever believe that I could. But what I know now is that unless you choose it, you're going to struggle. And you wonder why. And then if you use the tools of Access, then your life gets easier financially. And that's lots of fun, isn't it?
And it can happen fast. It happened for you fast. It happened for me fast. It's only been in this last year and a half where I've had money. Like what I was, even when I was doing access consciousness, I was playing with these tools. And I remember going, oh, I've always just got enough. And I went to the foundation class and I said to Patina, who was teaching me at the time, I said, you're not going to believe this, Patina. Oh my goodness, I've been on holiday and I came back from holiday and usually we don't have enough money to pay the mortgage. So we're kind of like scrimping and going, our holiday cost us, even though we didn't have to pay for the holiday really because it's free accommodation. The petrol and the food like took us into like debt, right? And I said, but this time because I used the tools, I've got exactly the right amount of money. The money that was in my drawer and the money that was in my bank, I've got 3 cents left. And I said, how lucky am I? And she said, wow. So I wasn't an overflow. I always just have enough money. Now I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And the interesting thing about that is that was not that long ago. I thought I was still rich because I had 3 cents left in my account and I afforded to do a foundation class. I had no petrol to get to the foundation class. So when she gave me back $10 back for my lunch and said, oh, you were meant to bring lunch, 2 days in a row, I said, oh, how does it get any better than this? I've got an extra $10. And then I sold a pram. My husband was like, we sold a pram today for $40. I was like, oh, I'm rich. The funny thing is, my mentality was there of never being poor, always having enough, because that had been my experience, but I wasn't choosing to be in overflow.
Yeah, exactly. And it does take a choice, and you keep on choosing it and expanding it as you're seeing right now. And by the way, let me acknowledge how well you're doing and good on you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things that I like to share with people, because really when you struggle with money, and even people who have lots of money before they come to Access still struggle with money. They still don't have any cash. They don't have money to spend. They have, big assets but no money. And so the tools of Access are just phenomenal. And one of the tools that I like to teach people is that's not much money. How cool is that?
Oh, can you say that again? I've never heard that one.
So it's like, whenever you get a bill and say it's the phone bill, it's $50 or $100 or something, just say to yourself, that's not much money. Or when you go shopping and looking at clothes, say to yourself, that's not much money. And what that does is it takes the energy off it. It takes the significance. We talk in Access about significance, and we add our significance onto something when we say, gosh, that's a lot of money. Well, if it's a lot of money, then you're never going to get it.
Really interesting that you say this, because this is a tool, without saying those actual words that I've been using. I have spent over $60,000 in the last year on personal development, on coaching, on all those different things. It sounds like a lot of money when we talk about that. And for some people, that's not much. For others, it seems to be a lot. It's just your perspective on that. But the thing is, I was like, $10,000 for what I'm getting is not a lot of money. So how can I create that money now so I can have more expansiveness? And I use my light and heavy tools. Oh, it feels so light and expansive to create $10,000. So then I can actually, have this or have that or have this. And what actually happens is I create that money so easily that the mind can't even kind of comprehend that.
Wow, well done. And also congratulations on spending that kind of money. Like, I don't know how much money I've actually spent on Access over the years. Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've never written it down, never kept a track of it, which would have been quite a good thing to do. But there you go, I didn't. And but I'm just grateful. I am so grateful for where the change and how I become more and more me, I suppose you could say, just more relaxed, a bigger being, just what?
Words can't explain the transformations that we can have. And this life that we have is very short here on earth. It is we are creators of our own time and space, but the solid kind of decisions and, that those points of views, those considerations that we're all putting into how things need to look, how long it takes to build a business. In the last year, we have built a house. My husband has retired from his career. Now he's working with me. And I have clients. I have fantastic soul clients. And I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm always expanding my allowance and my awareness. And that is exactly what you have done, Chrissie, where you have looked outside of that box and go, what else is possible? Those hundreds of thousands of dollars that you spent, that was not a loss. It was all a growth. And that is...
I wouldn't have spent it if I hadn't had it. I created it all, just as you said, you created it, and you just keep on, because choice is what creates it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize, they think that you've got to have the money before you choose something. Like, one of the things that I see with people is they don't have a house. They might be renting a house, and they think they can't have a house, but you've got to choose to have a house first. You've got to choose to own your own house. You've got to choose that, and then you can choose more. It doesn't have to just be a house. You could ask to choose a house that's got about 6 cars. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to say that because that sometimes rocks people's worlds when I talk about 6 cars.
Yeah.
You know what? When I first started doing this stuff, I thought, who would have more than 1 car?
Mm.
And then when I
thought, you've got to watch out for the ozone layer, blah, 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 footprints. It's like limitations.
And I never, ever thought to have a car for every different occasion until I met this guy and had a chat with him. And I asked him how many cars. I don't know why I asked him, but I must have asked him. And he said, well, I've got a car for this, and I've got a racing car, and then I've got, my this and my that. And I went, I never, ever thought about that. Wow. So let's ask for that anyway, and that's the other thing, is to have a big target.
Mm-hmm.
Choose to have a bigger life. And when you talk about conscious money, choosing consciousness is what takes people in the direction of prosperity. So absolutely. Choosing consciousness is what opens up your world to what's possible.
And can we just do some clearings? Oh, sorry, I think we had a little bit of a thing then. Can we do some clearings, Chrissie? Because I know that, and there's a little bit of charge around this. People will come to me and they'll say, I'm choosing this if it comes.
Yes.
I'm choosing this. Oh, I'm trusting that the universe will give me the money to do your programs. No. Take some responsibility, people. So I want to do some clearings around that, and then also afterwards about this whole. Actually, we'll just start there because they're blocking me and saying no.
Well, actually, that's really good awareness. But the thing about choosing is you have to start looking around how you can create it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a word. It's not just a word. Like, I remember when I bought my first house. Like, I started off doing Access and had no money, had credit card debt, was still paying off my car. I was age 55 and was living in a rented house, right? Started off doing Access. That very first year, bought my first house. But prior to that, I started looking around. I started going and interviewing builders, finding out if I could put a shed on a piece of land. I was really looking at all the different possibilities. And that's what I say to people, don't just choose it. Go and look. Go and find out how much houses cost. That's all part of the creation process.
Invite it in.
And that's what you invite it in. Absolutely. Totally. And start tugging it in and pulling it in.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. So if you want to do some clearings around our points of view about how if you choose it, it's going to happen straight away, and it can do too.
But also I notice that these people will say, I'm choosing this, and then they kind of do this buyer's remorse nearly. It's nearly like that energy of, oh, okay, I want, and I know I've done this myself, and maybe you've done this too, Chrissy, where we go, we want the $1 million. And then because they don't believe that it's real, their mindset gets in, they've got this block about that, and then it doesn't eventuate. It's nearly like, that power of The Secret, like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's not coming fast enough. Oh, I just give up. You know what I mean? So choice is beautiful. And I know I love what you said about creating choice. But if we could clear about what choice actually is, because I don't feel like people think that they have choice over their choice. Like there's some limitations there.
Okay, so everything that is, let's destroy and uncreate that. Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, all names, shorts, mimons. Yes, and also I'll tell you what really drives me a bit crazy is when people say, well, I'm choosing this. Well, that's actually not choosing. This is kind of like an energy of whatever that is. So let's destroy and uncreate.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, right, wrong, good, bad, pot, all names, shorts, words, mimons. So what does choice mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
So we destroy and uncreate all that and all the energy that comes on that, up on it, right, wrong, good, bad, pot, all names, shorts, mimons. And the thing is, just be aware that unless you actually choose something, you ain't going to get it. That's pretty much. So everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive what choice actually does and is and creates, let's destroy and uncreate all that. Right, wrong, good. That's the clearing statement, by the way. I'm guessing that most of the people know what that is.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, it's basically, like Chrissy said, it's just a clearing statement. It helps to shift the energy, nearly like the stagnant energy that comes up.
Right, wrong, good, all 9 shorts, boys, meons. And you can also Google the clearing statement and it will explain it to you what that is. It's an access tool for changing things. Mm-hmm. But choice is like right now, you can choose. We don't choose enough. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. We limit.
We stop. There you go. We create limits. We create blocks. And it really is the choice first. And you can just start looking around. One of the ways that you can start is to just, whenever you see something you like, go, I'll have one of those. Can I have one of those, please, universe? And because the universe is an abundant place, and even just go shopping into beautiful shops and see all the gorgeous things you like. You don't have to go in and buy them. Just go, you know what? I love that. I'll have one of those. Or if you see a beautiful, whenever I see gorgeous cars go by me, I always go, I'll have one of those. Anything that you're envious about is something that you really like to have. So I'll have that too, please.
And this is actually something that I've implemented in my life as well. I'm wearing it. No one can see this right now, but I'm actually wearing a hat, and I have ordered some really expensive hats to wear, and clothes. Right, I'm buying clothes that I love that fit. Now, the old version of Victoria used to buy things that were on special. Now, I didn't really have the choice of, what I was buying per se because it was on the sales rack. So what I did recently is I went and I spent thousands and thousands of dollars. I went away for the weekend with my sister. I went shopping and I bought myself some Doc Martens and I bought myself the clothes I wanted. I went and threw all my old clothes out that I never really wanted. And I said to my husband, by the way, I spent $5,000 or whatever it was. And he just went, cool, babe, whatever makes you happy. The weirdest thing about it was I was like, oh my goodness, I've actually grown through something. If I desire something, if I'm choosing something, I can have it and I can have it now. Now, I used to feel like A, B, C, D, and E had to happen before I was worthy of having that thing. But in fact, I was worthy of having that glass of champagne, that beautiful dinner, going away to Wellington and having the shopping spree with my family and being in joy and love. I spent thousands of dollars on photo shoots and adventures, and I have a whole team of people that work for me now. This all happened really, really fast at quantum speed because I could see that I had the possibility of doing that. Now, without seeing that possibility that other people were doing it, and this is what I'm coming back around to, is when you mentioned envy, I used to look at people and go, they're rich because they're lawyers. They're this because they're that. They're intelligent. I'm not. they can afford that. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
They do this. I remember with my sister-in-law, she goes, oh, cool, can I have a coffee? And I was like counting the coffee pods going, oh, I've got to save some for my clients. Or don't use that bread, Luke, because it's the Molenberg. So please toast. And now he said to me recently, Victoria, I'm so grateful that I can go out for dinner with you and I can have whatever the fuck I want. Excuse my language. I don't have to look for the cheapest meal, because I'll be like, are you going to get the most expensive meal, Luke? Because this was my reality. And now I've changed it. So now I'm like, I am the person who can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G if I want to, because I'm not envious. I'm not jealous. I'm choosing what they want. And I ask the question, do I really desire that? And if I do, what would it take for me to have it? Ooh, that's fun. And then I go on with my day. And just like with access consciousness, it's not about trying to find the answer. It's letting that answer or that possibility land and then choosing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's so exciting about how you went shopping and bought all those gorgeous clothes. And, you know, it isn't about deserving, because one of the things that I know I've heard Gary Douglas say is that, do we deserve the air that we breathe, or do we just take it? And money's like that too, by the way. We really, if we allow ourselves to receive money, it's receiving really that's the problem. It's about allowing ourselves to receive it and asking, because that's the other thing about money. You have to ask for it or you don't get it. So you have to ask for millions, billions of dollars, or, you know, just ask for, you know, if you're asking for just enough to pay the bills, I've done that, by the way, just enough to pay the bills, please. So you scrape away and you scrape away. So it's much easier to ask for way more than that. And you don't know how it's going to show up, but you do have to ask for it. You have to ask.
Yeah, and what I love it. I don't know if you know who Amanda Francis is. She doesn't do access consciousness, but she's what we call the money queen. And she's a coach. She's incredible. And she said, I had lots of debt, but I didn't focus on my debt. I focused on having so much overflow that one day I was like, I've got this and this and this and this, credit cards and debt. But you know what? I've got like millions of dollars, so I'll just go pay them off now. But she never let that be the thing, her student loan or her credit card or her overdraft. People focus on that debt rather than the overflow, and that can get them stuck. Now, I think that's kind of like I'm not saying go all la-di-la and woo-woo and don't worry about debt. No. Having awareness is clarity, but at the same time, her point was, I focused on so much overflow, and I know that it's my birthright to have all of these things I desire. So when it came to paying these things off, it didn't even make a dent in her bank account.
Right. Well, so that just leads me to a tool that I'd like to share with people, which is about asking, because when we do focus on, and I do this too, by the way, and I'm choosing not to, and it's about when we focus on what we don't have, we can ask this question, what's great about my life? And don't just ask it once. Ask it 5 times a day. No, sorry, 5 times an hour. What's great about my life for a few weeks? And that will take you to looking at what's great about your life.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of what's terrible about my life.
Yeah.
For more. So what are some of the other access tools that you love, Victoria, to do with bringing money into your life?
So what I love is, for me, like I am an empath. I know many of us are. We all have our own unique superpowers and gifts. For me, I can read energy so clearly that I barely see the person in front of me. I see the soul. So for me, my favorite tool is Who Does This Belong To? Return to Sender with Consciousness. Because when I first came to Access Consciousness, I had a breakdown. I was broke. I was unhappy. I was depressed. And I was psychic as fuck. I was aware of so many entities, and some of them weren't fun to play with at all. So what I did was I started saying, and who does this belong to? Return to Sender with Consciousness. I didn't understand anything about access consciousness. Oh my gosh. I basically fell asleep. I was completely unconscious, and I was getting frustrated with my facilitator trying to tell me things because I was like, what are you talking about? But then the funniest thing happened. I changed really quickly. And I was like, what is going on? And it made me realize that, you know what? I think this isn't just about my brain. This is about something deeper. And I started using that Who Does It Belong To? Return to Center with Consciousness all day, every day. And then I started acknowledging who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'd been living amongst a whole lot of lies and judgments that myself as this empathic being, this psychic creature, aware of. And that's why I felt so wonky. I could feel their sadness. I could feel their fear. I was petrified of living. Was afraid of shining in case I got my head cut off. I'm from a long line of psychic mediums, so I was really petrified. And it's not actually accepted in our family per se. Like my mom and my grandma, they just haven't opened up to it. But my great grandmother was very psychic, but they were under religion. So you add all these considerations and judgments, and it's never been fear. I take that all on, and I really had this pressure on my shoulders, and I was having breakdowns. So when I went into Access Consciousness, I had no idea what it was. A friend said to me, come along to this class. I know you've been looking for something. I said, okay. I had $320 at the time. That's how much it was. It was very expensive for me. It was a lot of money, and it was a big investment. Now, like today, I'm going to make an investment, and it's probably like $1,000, and I won't even blink an eye because I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. So it's completely different. I read an energy. I found out who I was, but that Who Does It Belong To? Return to Sender with Consciousness. I thought these tools were ridiculously, stupidly easy, and that wouldn't change anything. So when you said, I kind of smiled and laughed before, what's great about my life? Now, the funny thing is, people listening go, oh, yeah, sweet as, that's easy, got it. They comprehend it, then they don't do it 28 times in an hour. Now, if we do these things over and over and over and over again, we are transforming our brains, our minds, our beings, our consciousness. Therefore, miracles and magic happen. So that's my long answer to your short question.
So what's great about my life, I'm not getting, yes, and it is about using it. So at the minimum, say it 5 times an hour, and use some of these tools. There's lots more tools to do with money too, by the way. What would you say, what else would you like to know about my favorite tools with money?
Well, I know one of my favorite things is money is neutral. Money can be love. Money can be anything that we desire it to be. So I think the real question is, what are these perceptions that people have about what money actually is or what it isn't?
Yeah. Well, so what you're saying is if people realize that all of those perceptions are actually not true, they're all just, can I say, bullshit?
Yeah.
They're just, pretty much everything we ever know about money is a big fat lie, by the way. Mm-hmm. And because money is none of the stuff that we think it is. And in fact, it's a creation that we created as a way of, creating barter systems. But having money is such a gift. Having lots of money makes your life easier. And having money it's just as I say, it's a choice. It's like you can turn something around just by changing your mind about it and saying, I'm going to have that, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be that. I remember years and years ago, you probably know this, but you can change anything just by deciding you're going to change it.
Silver lining.
Is that the silver lining?
Yeah, everything has a light. The other day I woke up a little bit wonky. And of course I'm like, who does this belong to? Return to Center with Consciousness. I'm feeling wonky right now. What is this feelings? What is going on in the collective? Oh my goodness. And then I was like, hang on, this is just a choice. So I actually recorded a video, excuse me, for one of my groups, my paid groups, going from the wonky out of the wonky. And I literally did it right then. And my whole point of it was we can change our point of view in 1 minute, 10 minutes, an hour, or maybe 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. It is all a choice on how fast you do these things, because you have to believe. So I did it in about 20 minutes, and I did that, and I did it very slowly to show my audience how I did it. So I used different things like oils and crystals, and I did pairing statements because I wanted to be supported by all areas and feeling grounded but expansive. So it is a total choice. I think one thing that a lot of my audience may struggle with as well is about spiritual money. Now, I feel a program coming up about this actually, so that we might need to talk after this, Chrissie. But conscious money is incredible. Money is incredible, but there's a lot of spiritual people, and the spiritual people have money codes, and they feel like the money code is they can only have as much as they require. They can't have any more. Now, I've talked to spiritual people about this, and they're like, no. I charge this because that's what Spirit has said. And I'm like, well, I charge $500 for a reading. Now, that makes no sense, but I'm only available for that. So what would you say about having these limitations in the spiritual realm?
Yeah, well, is it what you're saying is that people believe that because you're doing spiritual, that people should get it for free? That's a sort of a myth that people do have. Also, like how many of us have been nuns in previous lifetime? And listen to that word nun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoops.
No. And so everywhere any of us have been a nun in many previous lifetimes. And therefore we don't believe that we can have anything. So we have none, or we have nothing. Should we destroy and uncreate all the decisions, judgments, conclusions, and computations we have made about that?
Please.
Wrong, good, bad, papa, corner, and shorts, me, yawns. Now, these clearing statements, you don't know when they're going to work, but they will definitely start undoing our point of view about having none or having nothing or being a nun. And, as a spiritual person, we're not allowed to, have lots of money. That's just sort of goes the opposite way to what people
you need. Yeah.
And what if actually it was the other way around? It's like doing spiritual work is creating more abundance and allowing yourself to have way more. So it's a block, it's a limitation that we have created probably many lifetimes ago. A lot of us come into this lifetimes, like myself. I had the point of view that I didn't want to be poor, and then I went, you know what? I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be wealthy. So rich and wealthy are two different terms. Wealthy actually includes rich. And wealthy is pretty much the target because it's got a more rounder than a rich person has a lot more hardness. This is my interesting point of view. There's nothing wrong with being rich. It's just that being wealthy includes a hell of a lot more than just being rich. So some of the tools that I would recommend to people is to start to carry lots of money, cash around in their pockets or their wallets with them. That's a really great tool because what that does is that every time you open up your wallet, you see money in there, real money, like not just play money, real cash. And when you open up your wallet and you see all this money, you're saying to yourself, I have lots of money that I don't spend, because you don't spend that money. Same with the 10% account. I so highly recommend to people to start putting that 10% of everything that comes in to them, because that 10% is what grows your wealth. And there's a book written by somebody called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's just a little tiny motivational book, and it's all about tithing to the Church of You. And I read that years and years ago, actually, because it's one of those self-help, self-development books. And I thought it was a good idea, but I didn't do anything with it. And it wasn't until I remember going to my first class with Gary Douglas, which was in those days called a level 2 and 3. And he talked for about an hour about putting 10% away, paying yourself first, putting that money away for yourself and never spending it, and how that is going to grow your wealth. And I listened and listened and listened and listened and listened until I finally decided to start doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that, Victoria? I'm sure you do.
I have done it to a certain extent. I can't say I have continuously done that, but I definitely am growing my bank accounts. One thing that I've done, which I want to add on to that incredible knowledge there, is that I have been playing with this tool of when I see money, I love the money, I hold the money, I acknowledge the money, I thank the money. And this comes back to that gratitude. And I have ended up with thousands of dollars in my drawer, in my wallet. And I've gone, holy moly. And then I go, that's cool. It's just like getting down to that ideal weight. You lose 3 kgs and you're like, holy moly. And then you stop. And then all of a sudden it starts going out again. And you go, oh, now there's no money around. And I've had stages in my life in the last few years where money has been everywhere in my house. My kids have bags full of money like it's toys. I had drawers full of money. There's money everywhere, and it's hilarious. There's cash, 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 cash. Now there's none around. It's all on the bank account, but it's because when I play with it, when I play with the idea of I love money, money loves me, it is beautiful, it is neutral, it is what I want, instead of money is dirty, don't put that in your mouth type of thing. When I go, oh my goodness, I always have cash, I always have money, and I love it so much, and it is always coming to me. People turn up and they start paying me cash. Hey, Vic, I owed you this money. Here's some money. Here's this. Here's that. And when you get onto that rhythm and that you play with that, more and more and more comes.
I totally love what you're saying about playing with money, and I love money and money loves me, because that's another thing, is to start really choosing to love money is another tool. When I talk about a tool, I'm talking about something that you can consciously do that makes a difference. Loving money, like looking at it, knowing what's on the front cover of the, what's on the $100 notes, picture of Lord Rutherford and the color of it and all the different aspects of it. That's loving money. It's about when you carry your money, put all your notes together on the same way.
So respect it. It's like respecting it, isn't it? Like it's like when you buy beautiful clothes, like my hats and my clothes. I now put the clothes in my beautiful new drawers that I got off a friend rather than my shitty old drawers. I roll them up and I have them there, and I've got my wardrobe organized now, where before I just threw everything, and I'm like, I'm not going to throw that silk dress into that. Like what? Like it's nearly like if you're disrespecting money, if you're disrespecting your clothes or your car or your home or your body, or money, that you're actually disrespecting yourself, because everything is a mirror.
Absolutely. And that's that honoring. That 10% is about honoring you as a person. That's really what you're doing with that, is you're putting that money away for you. You're paying yourself first before you pay the tax man. Paying yourself first is part of honoring you, as there are lots of different ways that you can honor you too. And it's about putting you first. And that's a whole nother conversation about putting yourself first. But paying yourself first is what tells the universe that you matter, you count. Okay, so more money comes to you. Even people who have debt, like Simone Milasas talks about how she was $187,000 in debt. And what she did was, Gary said, put 10% away. So she had a 10% account. Her father was an accountant, used to say to her, you should pay the debt off first. And she said, no, I'm putting the money in the 10% because that's honoring of me. And it really does, because it brings more money. It just works.
Thank you for this reminder, because that just kind of saw me. I just saw a block that I have, actually, the awareness, because you guys have to know that we're not always conscious of these things. These are unconsciousness. So when we have these awarenesses, when we talk about this stuff and it triggers us, it's coming up for a reason. And for me, as soon as another lot of money comes in, I go, oh, goody, now I can build up that tax account. So I instantly transfer 30% into the tax account and say to my husband, do you think there's enough money in the tax account? Because we're going to pay GST now and our team and stuff. And he's like, great, just keep doing that. And I'm like, hang on a minute. There's a bit of a loose boundary, a little bit of an energy leak here, because essentially, which I'm going to talk to him straight after this interview, is I'm going to say we need another account and 10% has to go in there before the tax account.
Yes, because you it's so funny, because really what you're doing is you're honoring the tax department. Oh, hold on. That's not quite what I had in mind. Yeah.
And at least, consciously we're saying, well, I've put this money away now. It doesn't mean I don't go buy what I want, but I think by having that and going, this is, what I'm creating here. So it's just so interesting. And I know sex is connected to money as well. And all of these things, and we turn off our body, right? So we turn off our body and we also turn off our receiving of money. So I quite often in all my programs, Relationship Blocks and Magnificent Mediumship, all of my lives, I talk a lot about sex, because I know for me, being that good Christian girl with the same guy since 16, it was very much like I had to go through a lot of toxic shame and trauma, really, of, how I was evil type of thing. I had to do a lot of releasing on that. But I also think that may have cut off my receiving of money as well, because if I'm not allowed to have sex and enjoyment, then I'm not allowed to have money. So these things all kind of add in together.
Well, it's the body that requires the money.
Mm-hmm.
The body that requires the money, because it's the body that needs the clothes and the food and, the cars to drive around. If we didn't have a body, we don't need money. So we do want to get more money for our bodies. And sex is all about receiving too, but it's not just about having any old sex. It really is about asking for great sex. And that's a whole nother conversation. There's another conversation. But yeah, great awareness. What else? What else do you know?
I think it's also about saying, okay, so if I was living in my truth and if I was willing to receive, how much money would I be willing to receive right now? And just by asking questions like that, we'll create another question.
Right. Or you might like to poke and pod all your points of view about how much you actually are willing to have as well. And you can just go, okay, so that let's destroy and uncreate everything that brings up right, wrong, good, bad, popular, and short, yawns. And we could run that. Actually, that would be a really good process to run for about 2 hours. Destroy and uncreate all your points of view that come up when you say how much money you'd be willing to have. Right, wrong, good, bad, popular, and short, yawns. Because what that does is it brings up an energy. It's the same as that, that exercise of throwing money into the fire. Have you ever done that exercise?
No, that scares me.
Yeah, and that's the amount of money that you have the energy on. It's like, don't want to do that. That's the amount of money that you're actually willing to have. So you keep on destroying and uncreating all your points of view. So throw $10 into the fire, a $10 note, and now destroy and uncreate all the points of view that come up when you throw $10 into the fire. Right, wrong, good, bad, popular, and short, me on. Now throw $50 into the fire. Now all the energy that comes up on that and destroy and uncreate all of that energy. Right, wrong, good, bad, popular, and short, me yawns. Now, like with this, we're just going to go like, then you go up to millions of dollars and throw millions of dollars into the fire. And clear all the points of view you have about throwing all that money into the fire. Because that's the other thing too. Have you ever heard about how being willing to waste money is such a great tool?
No.
It really is, because if you're willing to waste money, then you're not holding on to it, because anything you hold on to, you really stop yourself from having.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to waste money has been such a great awareness, because I've wasted thousands of dollars by purchasing the wrong program or buying stuff, even clothes. I've wasted thousands of dollars. And because I don't have a point of view that it's bad to waste money, I don't have any energy on it. And I'm so grateful, which I got that off Gary. He's willing to waste money. He wasted millions of dollars getting someone to try and do something to the Access website, and millions of dollars it cost him. And no, this doesn't work. Fired those people and got some more. And he'd already paid them millions of dollars. So, that's a really good awareness to have, is that when you do waste money, so what? You know what? There's plenty more. That's pretty much what you're saying if you don't have a point of view about it.
Right. So it's like air. Like I didn't take that little bit of air from that corner, but it doesn't matter because there's so much more air over here. There's air everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, what if money was like that? What if money was like air and there was so much of it? And it actually is, by the way. And that's one of the things I love about that book that Gary Douglas wrote, which is Money's Not the Problem, You Are. And one of the things he talks in there is about how money is everywhere. And really what you can do is, I used to imagine that a lot. I used to really read it and read it and read it and read it over and over until I could get my head around that there's money in every molecule of the air around us. Cash, dollar bills, $100 notes floating around in the air, all different currencies. And you can just play with that as well, because that brings more money.
I love that. What I love as well is people say money doesn't grow on trees. And one day I had this awareness but trees make me money. And I know now if I go to the beach, actually, I'm going to go pick up my children from school soon. I'm going to hop in the car and I'm going to that beach because I require to make some money. And I tell you what, the beach brings me a lot of money. Every time I go to the beach, now that might be my interesting point of view.
Yes,
it is, of course. But it brings me so much joy. Before this interview, Chrissie, I decided to go and do some energy work on some of my clients. So I went down to the river and I realized something. And I'm being very vulnerable here. That river and it makes me want to cry actually, because that river is 30 seconds away from my house.
Yeah.
How many times do you think I've been down to that river in the last 8 years? Maybe 3 times. So I've got this like river of money, these trees. And instead I'm staying in my 4 walls because I don't have time or space or money. Like these are kind of these limitations that everything just kind of flows into. So I went down there and I was like, I'm going to come down here every day for the next 21 days.
I think that's a really awesome thing. And it really is about how nature has no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And being in nature and also having gratitude, which is the crying, for the beauty of nature. And that's a contribution as well. And is that what you're talking about, is how nature really contributes, because you can really just be yourself down by the river. There's no energy of judgment. And we just pick it up. We can tell when people are judging us. You don't have to consciously think it, but we do sort of maybe put barriers up against that.
We feel it. You feel it. And that's like I said at the beginning, I can read energy more than body language. I mean, body language is easy to read, but I can see that. And I know that money does grow on trees, because when I went down to those trees and I touched them and I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm home. There's earth beings around. That's a totally different conversation to human beings, of course. Yes. But what if money could flow just like the river does? And what if there was nothing stopping you from receiving money, and you could open up your crown chakra and you could allow money just to fill up your entire body, because we are money.
Let's do that right now. Absolutely, we are. Yes, because money is energy, right? Mm-hmm. And everything around us, everything is energy. Everything is energy. And that's that whole thing about money being energy or being in the molecules. And really, it's about changing your mindset, isn't it? And allow yourself to play with that.
Exactly. So and I think,
you have a lovely walk down by the river, and you've just inspired me, because I've got a beautiful river just down here which I go to sometimes, the Waikato River, and it's got these beautiful native trees all around it, and that's a lovely space, lovely place.
Yeah. I used to live down there, actually, by the Waikato River, and I used to walk down there all the time when my daughter was a baby. And so I think, what I want to say to sum this up as well is a tool like Chrissie shared with us, what is great about my life that I'm not getting, or who does this belong to, return to sender with consciousness, or let's throw our money into the fire and pot and pock. Pot and pock is short for, good and bad, wrong and right, all my shorts, pot and pock, words and beyonds. Go on to Access Consciousness or theclearingstatement.com to shift the energy by using that. And the thing is, by using these simple tools, your whole entire life can shift. The only reason why people aren't using them is because they are not letting a simple yet profound kind of tool change their realities, because they're not willing to change their realities.
Yeah, maybe they haven't asked for it yet. But what I'd love to do is give people hope and inspire people to know that really it isn't about how much money you've got in the bank right now. It's about what you're asking for. That's what I'd love to inspire people to.
Beautiful. And how can we find out more about you? Where can we find you? Excuse me. Where can we find you? Where can we? I know you do a lot of incredible energy work, and you help to shift energy. You do this over Zoom, so you can be anywhere in the world. How do we find out about you?
So I've got a website called chrissieshirley.com, and if people go on there, they can get my beautiful questions, which I've got a really lovely PDF, which I love for people to have, because questions are one of the ways in access. And, these questions are just pretty. It's a lovely, pretty PDF, so you can download it and print it off and carry it around with you just to remind you. And that will put you onto my newsletter or get you in touch. You can also get in touch with me through that. And also Access Consciousness.com/Chrissie Shirley. And Chrissie is spelt with an I-E, Chrissie Shirley. And that'll get you in touch. And thank you so much, Victoria. It's been a wonderful conversation, a lot of fun, inspiring for me too, by the way, and lovely to see what you're doing.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you too, and thank you for your time. We could talk for 3 hours because we haven't even touched the surface. But you guys, I know that Chrissie has got some incredible, you've got incredible content, to be honest. And there's a ton of free content out there for you guys with access, and Chrissie is a certified facilitator, so therefore she has a lot of amazing stuff to share. So please go check out chrissieshirley.com, check out the show notes as well. So much more to come from you. We're so honored to have you in New Zealand in this space. Wow,
thank you very much, Victoria. And will you say how people can get in touch with you too?
Yes, so everything's in the show notes with all of the so I'll pop the show notes through to you as well, so you can share with your audience. And this has just been a fantastic opportunity. I want to let you guys know with my programs, we shift energy. That's what we do. And same with Chrissie, working with her, it's not just about mindset. Now, mindset and perspective, like Chrissie was talking about, it's a shift in perspective. But when we use energy and acknowledge that we are energy, and we use choice and these simple, incredible tools that we've shared with you, anything is possible.
Wow, anything is possible. How does it get better?
Thank you so much, Shirley. I will let you go, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, give us a 5-star. Give us some feedback. What was your biggest takeaway from what Chrissie Shirley? I bet you get Shirley all the time, because people go, I talked to Shirley, and I was like, you talk to Chrissie.
It's a good way of getting people to hear my name a few times. How does it get better?
Oh my goodness, brilliant. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, and let us know what your biggest takeaway was and how your money reality is now, and what you're choosing. So
yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chrissie, and we will see you next time.
Okay, darling. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.